Hey guys, welcome back to COSC 1437, Introduction to Java. This is chapter 8. In this chapter, you're going to start writing your own classes. And so what I'd like to do is to actually show you an example from start to finish of how we do this. So your first assignment for Lab 6 is to type the class circle and the test program circle as two separate files and run and test the program. So I'm going to do part of this. I'm just going to show you part of it. I'm not going to implement the whole circle class, but I'm going to show you part of the circle class and also show you how do we create these two files and test the class. So remember, when you create a class, you're creating a class so that other people can use that class. So your class should not have a main method. So the main method is going to be put inside the test program circle. So whoever uses your class, they'll have a main, they'll create an object of type circle, and they'll be able to use whatever methods you provide to them. Whatever members you allow that are public for them to use of that class. So without further ado, let me go ahead and minimize this. All right, so when you open the online compiler, or maybe you're using Eclipse or NetBeans or some other compiler, you're always going to have the name of a class appear, and the class name will always be the same as the file name. So see the file here says main.java. So the class here says main.java, and I've never changed that because we weren't messing with the class. We weren't creating a class, but now we are. And then always inside that class, there is the main method, which is where the program starts running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my two files, and I'm going to move this main method out of here. So first of all, I want to call my class circle. So that means that my file name will also need to be called circle. So we have circle.java. And then I'm going to create a new file that's going to be called, you can call this anything you want. This is test. I'm going to call it test circle. So it's gonna be just a file to test to make sure that my circle class works the way I think it's supposed to work. And it's going to be a .java file. We press OK. So I'm going to copy this out of here, and I'm going to put it in here. And actually, I have to copy all of this. Okay, so this one, it's not going to be called circle. This is going to be test circle Java. So that's the name of my class, and it's going to have a main. The circle class is not going to have a main. We're just creating the class for other people to use. All right, now, what I want the circle class to do is I want it to, when the user creates a circle, I want them to be able to give me the radius, and then I will give them the area or the perimeter with whatever radius they provide. So that means that the data that the circle class needs is radius. And so if you remember, we talked about last time with object-oriented design is that a class will have data. So we say it's encapsulation. We're encapsulating the data and the methods that that either use or act on that data. So the data, you always want to make it private because you don't want the user to directly access this variable radius, you want them to set the radius, but you want to do it for them. You don't want them to directly go in and mess with the data. And so I'll show you how we do that. But for right now, we have private double radius. And so we make it private. And what that means is that the only members that can access radius are members inside the class. Any other classes may not access that variable. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define my methods. So I'm going to have one method that calculates the area. And then I'm going to have a method that calculates the perimeter. And so these methods have to be public because the user, whoever that user is, that creates an object of type circle, they'll give you the radius and they'll say something like circle dot area or circle dot perimeter. And it looks like I am running out of power. So give me just a second. I'm just going to change locations. And so you also have to think, what's the return type going to be for your method? I'm running out of power. I'm going to go back here. I'm running out of power. So I'm going to sit back here. Okay, so your return type is going to be double, and the name of the method is going to be area, and the user is going to send, it's going to pass the, I'm sorry, the user's not going to pass anything. They're just going to call the area method. And so we need to say if this method is going to be private or public. We want it to be public because we want the user to be able to call this method. And then I'm going to do the same thing, public, double, perimeter. So the radius they can pass you a radius that can be a whole number, or they can pass you a radius that can be a floating point number, and then you'll return either a whole number or a floating point number. And that's why we're defining it as a double, returning a double. Okay. There we go. Make sure I'm not going to run out of power. Nope. So in here, we're going to put the calculations of how to calculate the area and the perimeter. So I just went online, and in case you forgot what the formula is, to calculate the area of a circle, it's pi r squared. Now pi, in the math class, they actually have a constant for pi, and it holds the value of pi. So you don't have to like go look up what pi is or remember. And we know that pi, it's a floating point number that goes on forever, but they actually in the math class will define pi, and you're not going to have to think of the name. So in here, I'm going to say double A for area, A equals, and the formula is pi r squared. So to use pi, we're going to call the math class and access the public constant, which is pi. So it's pi times radius times radius. That's pi r squared, r times r, radius times radius. And then we're going to return A. So this is one way that we can create the calculation. I also want to show you that, and I've shown you this before, we can just return the calculation and not define a variable. So to calculate the perimeter is 2 pi r, so 2 times pi times r. So 2 times pi times radius. Okay. So there's that. And then the only thing that we have left is when the user creates a circle, an object of a circle, they need to be able to give us the radius. And to be able to do that is we're going to create a constructor. We talked about constructor before. Put this line there. So here I'm going to type, and we can have multiple constructors. In the book example that you're going to be entering, it actually has 2 different constructors. I'm just going to create one and let you enter the other one. So this constructor, whenever you create a constructor, the constructor is not going to have a return type. It's just going to be the name of the class, circle, and the constructor can have 0 parameters. If it has 0 parameters, then that means that they created a circle with no radius. So you would set radius to 0. And then you would provide a set method so they can set the radius at some other point. I'm not going to provide a set or a get method to get the radius or set the radius. I'm just going to have them pass me the radius. And then when they do that, I will set a radius equal to r. So I'm setting this variable, which is private radius, to whatever the user passes to me. Once that gets set, then this calculation can happen, or this calculation can happen. So right now I'm going to run this and just see if I've made any mistakes. If there are any problems. So it says, there's a problem in testcircle.java, error. Test circle Java is public, should be declared in a file named test circle. Because okay. So I haven't coded test circle. So it's actually giving me an error over here. So, okay, for some reason it printed hello world. Oh, because hello world is over here. Okay, so it ran the main program over here, test circle, and it just printed hello world because I haven't done anything in test circle. But nothing, there was nothing, no errors in the class. So now I can go to test circle and I can actually test my class to see if it works. And so I'm going to take this out. Actually, I'm going to leave that in there because I'm going to use that system.out in a second. So I'm going to create a circle object. Circle. I'm going to call it C. Now this just creates an object. It doesn't actually instantiate a circle. So to do that, I have to use the new keyword. So I'm going to say, so I can do this 2 different ways. I can do it all in one line. So I can say circle C equals new circle and pass it the radius. Maybe the radius is 3. I can do it that way, or I can say, don't change what wants to change what I typed. Or I can say circle C, and then C equals new circle. So you can do it either one of these ways right here. Okay, so now now what happens is it actually makes room for radius. So when I do a new, it creates space for the data that I've declared in my class. And then the 3 gets passed, the 3 gets stored in the memory location for that data in circle. So I have an object, and my object has one data value, which is 3. So now the user, so this is just me like using the circle class that somebody created. I can now say see print the area. So I'm going to use this here. I'm going to say the area is C dot area. So if you look over here, the name of the method is area, and that's how I'm going to call it here. C dot area. Area is public, so I can do that. If this is private, it would not allow me to do that. So the area of the circle is pi r squared. So you could type that into your calculator, make sure that whatever you have on your calculator is the same thing that comes out on the screen. So just for an estimation, pi, I'm going to say is 3.14. I'm just going to round it to 3. My radius is 3 that I made here. So 3 times 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So it should be somewhere around 27. A little bit more. It's going to be more than 27, less than 30. This is the area is 28.27. Okay, and then let's do the same thing, except now we're going to call the perimeter method. C dot perimeter. And again, 2 pi r. So 2 times 3 is 6 times 3 is 18. And so this should be around a little bit more than 18. And it's 18.849 and it has a long decimal. So this is how we create a class. Again, the class name has to be the same as the file name. This class has X number of members. The members are the data, the fields. This is data or fields. Data members or fields. That's 1. The constructors are also considered members of the class. So we have that 1 constructor. And then the methods, whether they're public or private, are also members of the class. So we have 1 member, 2, 3, 4. So this circle class that I just created has 4 members, 2 methods, 2 public methods, 1 constructor, and 1 data, 1 piece of data, 1 field, 1 data member. The class is kept completely separate from the driver that will test it. So this is just for testing. And so let's say that you work for a company and your job is to create a class that other people in your company are going to use. You give them the class, it's all created, you test it separately. And the test is something that you keep, but everybody else has access to that class. And so to test the class, you just have to make instantiate or create an object of the class and then call the public methods and make sure that whatever math or whatever you did in those methods, the algorithm is correct. So I think this is it for that I wanted to show you as far as this example. On the next video, I want to go over some of the items in the PowerPoint, just making sure that you understand the terminology and also what's happening in memory when we create an object, a class, etc. Okay, thank you.